A country's economic development is indicated by its architectural development. You won't be astounded by Dubai's current state if you consider what it looked like a few decades ago. They transformed a desert into a tourist and commercial hub, where visitors and business people from all over the world come to visit. You'll be amazed by the following list of the world's most useless projects. Did you know that there is a capital city that was built for millions of people, but is virtually empty, and that the United States wasted $17 billion on a project that was never used and is still completely useless today? Welcome to our video on the world's most useless projects. There have been numerous examples throughout history of ambitious construction projects that promised to revolutionize the world, but ended up being huge failures. These projects frequently came at high costs, both financially and environmentally, and their ultimate failure serves as a warning to future generations. In this video, we'll look at some of the most common examples of wasteful projects, so buckle up and prepare to be amazed, frustrated, and possibly even amused by some of the world's most useless projects. Interstate H3, Hawaii. Let's begin with a breathtakingly scenic highway in the Aloha state of Hawaii. The 26-kilometer-long Interstate H3, which passes through one of the world's most stunning landscapes. It's so breathtaking that there were genuine fears of motorists stopping and causing traffic jams. The highway, on the other hand, is as worthless as it is beautiful. The highway was first proposed in 1960 with defense concerns in mind, as it would connect the Pearl Harbor Naval Base on the south side to the Marine Corps Air Station on the east coast. The announcement of its construction was met with immediate opposition from environmental groups as well as native Hawaiians, concerned about the massive urbanization that the project would bring. Environmental laws at the time, as well as a route change to protect the surrounding valleys, caused the plans to be postponed indefinitely. The total cost of construction was $1.3 billion, or about $50 million per kilometer, the world's most expensive cost per kilometer. Despite its large budget, this beautiful highway is not for everyone. Critics argue that it is a dead end because the 1960s defense considerations are no longer relevant, and the highway has no direct route to downtown Honolulu. Then there's the case of native Hawaiians, the majority of whom still refuse to use the H3 because many religiously significant cultural sites were destroyed during its construction. In terms of projects, the Interstate H3 highway is unquestionably a success. However, it's still ineffective for some indigenous groups. Forest City, Malaysia. Forest City, Malaysia would be a green, smart, and futuristic city built on reclaimed land on 4 man-made islands. The metropolis will be built near Singapore's sovereign city-state and will be built around an artificial forest ecosystem. Numerous environmentally friendly technologies such as vertical gardens and buildings with green rooftops that simulate a jungle are incorporated into the city's design. However, the city has had to overcome a number of political and economic barriers that have slowed its development. Because the project is primarily sponsored by China, Chinese citizens essentially had a free pass to the city during the first few years of construction. As a result, wealthy Chinese investors flocked to the Forest City, unable to afford the skyrocketing prices of apartments in their home country. When a change in leadership resulted in a ban on foreigners owning property in the city, there was outrage. The next major setback was the epidemic and global travel restrictions. Some salespeople claim that fewer than 10 homes have been sold at Forest City since the start of the coronavirus pandemic, and the project has remained in flux. Despite its potential, the Forest City project is currently one of the world's most useless projects. Yucca Mountain, Nevada. Nuclear waste disposal has long been a sensitive and pressing issue for the international community. The dangers of nuclear waste, if not properly stored, are well documented and can be disastrous. In order to find a permanent solution to this growing problem, the US government set out in the 1980s to find a suitable location for a deep underground nuclear waste repository. Following extensive consideration and research, authorities determined that Yucca Mountain in Nevada was the best possible option. The mountain is near the most heavily used nuclear testing site in the United States, is remote from any population centers, and is made of volcanic ash formed millions of years ago, allowing it to absorb any radioactive waste without crumbling or cracking. Despite opposition, the Department of Energy resumed construction after the project was approved in 2002, Nonetheless, Nevada remained opposed to the project, and by the time Barack Obama took office, it had become highly politicized. After determining that the project was unfeasible, the Obama administration stopped funding it in 2010. Even though a federal court ordered its resumption 3 years later, little had changed. According to the Biden administration, Yucca Mountain is no longer part of the country's strategy. The Yucca Mountain project remains a useless project that has never been used, despite decades of planning, legal issues, and over $17 billion in funding. The issue of nuclear waste disposal is complex and sensitive, and there is no simple solution. However, any future plans must consider the concerns and well-being of local communities, as well as the potential environmental impacts. Ciudad Real Central Airport, Spain. Spain's Ciudad Real Central Airport was designed as a replacement for the heavily congested main airport in Madrid. 2 million passengers per year were anticipated at the airport, and there were plans in place for expansion to increase capacity to 10 million. However, the airport encountered numerous issues when it opened in 2009, including its remote location 200 kilometers from Madrid and the absence of major airlines. The airport entered receivership in 2012 after accruing a $350 million debt in its first year of operation. It was put up for auction in 2013 and became well known as an abandoned location in 2014, thanks to a British TV program. In 2019, the airport was finally sold and converted into a storage facility for COVID-19. The Ciudad Real Central Airport has evolved into a cautionary tale about the dangers and pitfalls of large-scale infrastructure projects. Despite its initial promise and lofty mission, the airport wasn't built where it should have been. Far from the main population center it was meant to serve, and it didn't have any major airlines to draw travelers. The project's failure was crystal clear from the project sponsor's bankruptcy and receivership. The COVID-19 pandemic ultimately only allowed the airport to find new use as a storage facility for grounded aircraft. But even this is uncertain because the timeline for the return of regular flight operations is uncertain. Naypyidaw, Myanmar. Myanmar's capital, Naypyidaw, was built from the ground up in secret by the country's former military leadership in 2002. The reasons for this abrupt change of capital were unclear, but it had something to do with the fact that the former capital, Yangon, was reaching its infrastructure limits, and that its population was expected to double by 2050. The new project was completed quickly, and successive governments have invested $4 billion in the city to date. However, the city now has fewer than 1 million residents and is commonly referred to as a ghost town. The city's airport handles very few passengers, and the city's 20-lane highway is virtually empty. Most shopping malls and hotel lobbies are deserted. Despite this, the city was designed to be a city of the future, and there is still time for an inevitable redemption. In conclusion, the world's most useless projects are a reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition. These projects have squandered enormous amounts of resources, both financial and environmental, without delivering the promised benefits. While some of these projects may have been impressive feats of engineering, they ultimately failed to serve the needs of their intended users or society as a whole. As we move forward, it's important to learn from the mistakes of the past and to approach large-scale projects with a critical eye, weighing the potential benefit against the cost and risks. Thanks for watching, and we hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button for more of these types of videos. See you next time.